Hey guys, it's Paige, or Duchess Celestia, and today I'm going to be talking about something that's vaguely more serious than I'm accustomed to. How agoraphobia impacts my art career was the topic to win this week's Twitter poll, so with that in mind, please know that there will be discussion of mental illness in this video. And as I don't want to upset anyone, please listen with caution if that might bother you. Before we dive into that, today's art is finally not League of Legends. I'm drawing Haruka and Michiru from Sailor Moon, my favorite girlfriends. I've had a connection with the couple for a while now, partially because I look a lot like Haruka and I'm also in love with a pretty lady, and partially because during a really shitty experience on what used to be a cool amino that I invested a shameful amount of time in, my partner and I went by the names of Haru and Michi and used these two as our aesthetics. I really love them both, and it's been an unbelievably long time since I actually watched Sailor Moon and remember almost none of it, but I still really enjoyed these two a lot, and I had a fun time drawing them. Alright, so before I talk about how agoraphobia impacts my art career, first I want to go over a sort of introduction to what it really is, because it's a very, very misunderstood phobia, and I found an unsettling number of people that still think it's simply a fear of wide open spaces, and that those who suffer from it just never go outside, ever, and never have. I'm gonna summarize why that's wrong, but if you're interested in hearing more about it from someone who's much better at putting it into words than I am, I'm gonna link Emily Rose's video, both in a card up there and in the description, because I've really never heard it described better than she did. But as a summary, agoraphobia is not a fear of wide open spaces. It's a fear of leaving a space that you perceive as safe, which is usually your home, but can include other places that you're equally comfortable in. It does not mean that everyone who deals with agoraphobia can never go outside either. It's based on personal, individual experiences, and what each person considers safe. For me, I can go on walks on a trail near my apartment that I know very well. I can go to a few nearby stores. I can go to my mom's house, my dad's house, as well as some friends' houses. It's pretty much a radius sort of thing, so I can go a limited distance from my safe places. And even when I am at one of my safe places, I usually get anxious and need to go home within an hour. It's also largely dependent on how anxious I am that day too. Like some days I can run errands nearby, go for a walk, and go for coffee with someone in one of those nearby stores or restaurants that I mentioned before. Other days I can't go out on my own balcony. On my worst days I can't leave my bedroom. And to be clear, it's not that I'm even consciously afraid of anything that's outside, or that I don't want to go outside. I love nature, I love people watching, I love exploring, I love window shopping, I love a fuck ton of shit that's out there. It's just something that I can't put into words properly. It's like the further I go from home, the tighter my chest gets, the harder it is to breathe. It just feels like the world is closing in around me, and it traps me in that shrinking space until I can't breathe or think or function. It's also not something I've always dealt with. I've always had severe anxiety, especially in public, and I've always had issues with being touched, but it was never this. As a teenager, I went out all the time. I worked at Tim Hortons, I hung out with friends, I traveled, I moved across the country. I got anxious about those things, but I could still do them and enjoy them. But like most people who deal with this phobia, it started developing and worsening after trauma. A bunch of bad shit happened over the span of a few years when I was around 18, and gradually during that and afterwards, things started going downhill for me. Fortunately though, I actually started selling at conventions before that all happened and fully developed. I believe my first convention was around when I was 17, and I'm very lucky to have had the opportunity to sort of get familiar with that environment before things went to shit. I'm fairly sure that if I had started as I am now, I straight up would not have been able to become a convention artist at all. So now we're getting into how agoraphobia has actually impacted my career, specifically at conventions. As I started getting worse and worse, I needed more and more prerequisites in order to be able to go to cons at all. Generally, convention artists will try to cut costs wherever possible to maximize profit, which means staying with friends, splitting hotel rooms, that kind of stuff. And I can't. I need to establish the hotel as a safe space to go at all, which means a lot of things that are not cost effective. So say the convention is 3 days long, Friday to Sunday. I can't just go on Friday morning. I need to go a day early and stay Thursday night in order to calm down from traveling and get vaguely comfortable in the hotel room. And I need to stay Sunday night too, rather than going home after the convention ends, because I can't be out and around people at my table and travel again in the same day. I also can't split the hotel room, because having other people in the room with me other than my partner terrifies me, and if the only place I could have considered safe becomes fucking terrifying, there's pretty much no escape from that constant fear for the entire weekend. The hotel also has to be within walking distance because I can't spend the day too far from it. So as you can see, this shit really cuts into profits, and I have to make a lot more to defeat my base costs and make a profit. And the most frustrating part is that teenage me used to go to these same damn conventions and share one hotel room with 5 friends and be out at the con from the moment programming started until the moment it ended. And as you can probably imagine, conventions are not the only aspect of my art career that's impacted by agoraphobia. Not being able to go out freely and without stipulations is cripplingly limiting. I can't go out and network, check out new places or opportunities, or even meet other artists or interested customers in person. I also used to garner a lot of interest and commissions by drawing in coffee shops and parks, and that's largely off the table now too. I can't travel far for conventions, so at best, I attend 2 or 3 a year in my province, which means that not getting into even one of them is financially crushing. I'm still living in a small town that's got almost no art opportunities. Not to mention how terrifyingly unsafe it is for the LGBT community, because it's taken me years to work myself up to being able to move. And worst, in my opinion, I can't go to art school. I know there are some online options, but all of the ones I've looked into are not in Canada and require you to come in for exams, registration, and that kind of stuff. It makes my world a lot smaller than it could be. The impact agoraphobia has on my career is really only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the ways that it impacts my life altogether. But the more I try to further my professional endeavors, the more frustrated I get by these things in particular. I'm doing my best to improve and get better from this, as well as focus on online options in the meantime, but I think it's probably going to be a lifelong process with ups and downs, and it often feels like I'm fighting a losing battle. There is so much stigma and misinformation surrounding agoraphobia too. Like, so many people, loved ones included, have told me to get over it, to just force myself to go out, to make an exception and go out with them, and the hit classic, "You weren't always like this, so you have no excuse to be now." So much of what I have to do just to feel safe already feels ridiculous and unnecessary and fucking stupid, even to me. It's crushing to not know why I can't do what everyone else can do without thinking about it. Why I can't do what I myself used to be able to do. Like, what's wrong with me? I shouldn't be like this. I don't want to be like this. And knowing that my career is suffering for it too is truly the cherry on top of the shit sundae. So to add the relentless judgment and criticism of so many people around me to that already debilitating self-hatred, not great. And that not great just chips away at my morale and self-esteem every single day, as I'm sure it does for a lot of people that suffer from this. Ultimately, I guess what I want people to take away from me talking about this is just to be kind to the people around you. You don't know what they might be going through, and what's easy or simple or something that you do every day without thinking about it, those things might be insurmountably scary for someone else. For example, I have to space out my medical appointments by at least a month between them because having more than one appointment in a month is absolutely way too much for me. I went to the other side of town this past week and started almost crying and had to go home because it was too far away. And this was a place that I had been to maybe 4 years ago. And I knew what it was. I knew the area. I knew all of that. And it was just too much. And it's a small town, and going to the other side of it gave me a panic attack. And there are a lot of disorders and phobias that make simple things like that difficult for the people that are handling them. And a lot of that is completely invisible. So just please be careful when you judge someone for having a hard time doing something that isn't a big deal to you, because it might be a much bigger deal to them than you could possibly realize. Alright, that was a lot. So I'll be talking more about the relationship between mental health and art in the future, or at least how it applies in my own experience, because obviously everyone experiences that impact differently. But I'm definitely going to try to intersperse them more rarely between less heavy topics for my own sanity's sake and for yours. But if there are any topics under that umbrella that you do want me to discuss, or any questions that you have about any of it, please let me know. Anyway, before I end the video, I'd just like to casually throw out that I have a Discord server now. Members will get live updates on new content, channels in which you can suggest new content for videos, merch, and art, and just an all-around chill, art-oriented community where everyone can just kind of hang out and vibe. There's a whole bunch of just general social channels, including a gaming channel where I'll inevitably try to find people to play Animal Crossing, League, and Among Us with. There's a big art section where you can post your own content, promote your stuff, share your social media, seek feedback, that kind of stuff. And if you like my content, or even just art and making new friends in general, please check it out and consider joining. Alright, thank you guys for watching. If you want to have a say in what I talk about in my next video, please click the link in the description for my Twitter poll and vote there. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Okay, quick message that I forgot to mention earlier. Sorry about that. The app that I use to record my screen on the iPad is called Record It, and I've had a bunch of issues with it in the past. And in this case, there are a couple parts of the video in which the recording kind of glitches. It's stuck on frames of the coloring rather than the coloring itself. And I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to work out what's causing that, but until I do, please bear with me. There are going to be some parts of my speed paints where it's not really a speed paint so much as it's just frames of a speed paint. I'm working on it.